Hello lovely people. It's been a long time, huh? Now my kids are in school and in kindergarten, so we can finally proceed with our project. If you want to see how we got to this point, you can check out the previous episodes. You will find some good tips there. I promised that we would get our scene to a paint-ready state in this episode, and so it will be. We will give the rocks a realistic finish, then we will do some terrain transitions, some dirt work, and finally we will put on some static grass. All good? Let's get started. Before finishing the rocks, I filled the empty space with some styrofoam. As you can see, the pieces of molded plaster are just glued in place like a puzzle. Not good at all. The first step was to trim protruding parts with shitty cutters. Please do not use good ones or perhaps styrene cutters for those tasks. Next, I filled the gaps with wall repair stucco. If the holes are big, you can also add smaller pieces of plaster. I let the thing dry overnight. The next morning, I first wetted the surface with some water. This way, you soften the plaster a little bit and this will help our next steps. Now, you can start creating some random shapes with cutters and, more importantly, you should start engraving those horizontal but slightly angled lines. Some cleaning with a dry brush, and here you can see what I was trying to obtain. The cutters are there to break big surfaces and to give some random shape. And those lines represent the veins in the rock. The same steps were made on the lower piece. You can also make some nearly vertical lines. Take your time and you will be rewarded in the end. A dental tool and a chisel scalpel were used for the final step. Here you must be patient. The goal is to bring out single stones. As you can see, our stone wall is coming to life. And maybe this thing deserves a like and subscribe? What do you think? Now it was time to glue the street in place. I spread some PVA all over the cardboard. The section was put in place and of course I pinned it down. I prepared some smaller rocks. Basically all that I had to do was pass the remains of the plaster through a sieve. Now you can see that we have two different sizes of rocks. Here I made a mixture of different granulations of gravel, plaster and PVA. This thing was then used to fill the empty space between the road and the rocks. I left a portion of this mixture dry. I used this mixture because it flows into all the gaps and holes. A brush was used to push it in place. I quickly made some spots of diluted PVA on the street, and while all was still wet, I sprinkled some dry mixture on top. A quick tip over to get rid of the excess, and here we have our primary texture. I cleaned the overdone stuff with a dry brush. Try to obtain a random lifelike look. Here I am gluing the upper piece of the structure. I was very careful to get it in place well. The other side of the road was treated the same way as the first. Now we will make the transition between the rocks and the street, and there will be pieces of rock that have fallen down. First I put the bigger plaster rocks in place. Pay attention, there is no glue and the primary texture is dry. Then I put in the smaller plaster rocks. You can easily put them in place with a brush. Time to switch to gravel. I was applying smaller and smaller granulations. You can see the size on the jars for orientation. At the end, you should arrange everything with a brush. When I was happy, I sprayed everything with tension breaker. Scenic glue was used to glue everything together. And yes, it's clogged. Arr. Here we go. Now we're talking. When everything was soaked, I applied some even smaller gravel over the scenic glue. The other side went the same way, but here I skipped the biggest rocks. I think it's time to thank my amazing Patreons. So, thank you Alpenhauler and also Jack McKee, who has joined the team. If you like the channel and want more exclusive content, pay a visit to my Patreon page. You will find some interesting treats there. You can also help me by following me on Instagram. So now we have to prepare the foundation for some dirt ground. First, I spread some PVA all over the styrofoam. This step will help the stucco adhere properly. Then I took a piece of styrofoam as a spatula and applied some repair stucco in order to get rid of those tears. Here I also added some plaster stones to the bottom of the rocky wall. Later we will add the same transition as on the upper floor. After a night of drying, I sanded everything with a carpenter's sanding sponge. And now we are ready to put on some dirt. We will put it in the two upper corners and all over the lower ground. As before, we will do the dirt in two steps. The first step will be a mixture of repair stucco, some ordinary sand and some real dirt. Instead of water, PVA will be used. You have to prepare paste that should be workable, but it should not run by itself. Some drops of water are welcome. Here you can see the density. You should put some paste in position and then you have a lot of time to work with it. The purpose of this step is to create some volume and also to allow you to sink things in there, so they will not levitate on the ground. For the second step, I prepared a dry mixture of fine sieved dirt, some raised dirt, some gravel and some dry sea ball bits. This mix was then sprinkled on the paste while it was still wet. The dirt was then soaked with tension breaker and scenic glue. The sprinkling of dry stuff was repeated a second time. For the end, I added some sea ball bits and some shredded oregano. Those things represent, I don't know, things that fall on the ground in the forest maybe. One thing is for sure, they add a lot of interest to the ground. Also those were fixed with scenic glue. As I said, I made another transition on the lower floor. The process was exactly the same as on the upper one. Because the dirt paste was still wet, I was able to sink the bigger stones properly. For my first experience with static grass, I borrowed this applicator from my friend Ravko. As I understand, it's one of the best middle low-cost applicators. We boosted it with this 3 to 12 volt adapter, so you can use more power and you get rid of the fall of voltage after a few minutes with the battery. Ravko also gave me this mix of 5 to 6 mm static grass. The color is cool, but we will paint it anyway. Let's do some grass. Okay, this sounds weird. Okay, first thing, you should apply some blobs of PVA straight from the bottle. Then you touch the ground with this rod and you put on some grass. This doesn't look good at all. After a few turns, I kind of handled it. The trick is to not worry about applying the grass heavily. You tip over the scene to get rid of the excess. After some time you can start to shape the turf with a soft brush. You can start immediately or you can wait a few minutes. It depends on what you are trying to achieve. I was using this box to trap the excess, but still it's a very dirty process. I think that I still have some static grass even in my ass. Ha! As they say, grass as gas. Nobody rides for free. Tu. Psst. I made a joke. Et voila! Some finer shaping and the lower part is finished. Here, on the upper floor, you can see that I was trying to concentrate the grass in logical places, where usually some more humidity would be. And here we go. I'm quite happy with the result. After a few hours of drying, I started to clean the remains with the airbrush and the soft brush. I have a surprise for you. I was able to make those nice pine tree trunks. I drilled some holes and put them in place. The trunks turned out quite well, and next week you will get a complete tutorial about building them. And yes, they will be dressed too. I am glad that this one is over. Now I must pack for tomorrow. I am going to Zagreb in Croatia to attend Crna Kraljica, the Black Queen, a big and fun modeling contest. Last year I won Best of Show, and we will see how things go this year. If you will be there, please visit our club stand, San Giusto Trieste. I will bring this project with me and you can see it live. We can also have a chat and a beer. So, thank you for watching and stay tuned. Bye.